Gerard Lyons is a distinguished economist and senior independent director at the Bank of China in the UK. Gerard, welcome back to the programme. Good to see you. Prime Minister Starmer saying that China-UK relations are now in a good, strong place after this. How significant is it to be able to say that?
It's very significant. The last year has seen a material change in the relationship between the UK and China. This time a year ago, the economic and financial dialogue took place in Beijing. That was positive. Then we had a big trade meeting between the two countries in the summer. So it's very important that the UK Prime Minister made the first visit in 8 years. The reality is that China is the second biggest economy in the world. It's Britain's third biggest trading partner. And there are key areas that both countries can compete and cooperate as well in. In terms of cooperation, it's in terms of the green agenda. And China is just too big to ignore. And in all likelihood, China will become an even more important economy for Britain in the future, particularly if we build on this meeting in Beijing.
You're immersed in this UK-China relationship. I mean, how do you assess the economic importance of China to the UK now?
Well, it's very important, particularly actually if services start to really take off. When one looks at the bilateral relationship, the trade between the two countries is over £103 billion sterling, but Britain has a big trade deficit of about £70 billion. Basically, China exports 70 billion, we export 30 billion, so the trade deficit is about 40 billion pounds. But the reality is this, that when you look at Britain's market share in China, for goods it's less than 1%. That's not really going to improve. But in terms of services, Britain's market share is a low 2.7%. Now, as China moves to its next stage of development, it will have to boost consumption in China. It will move up the value curve. Services will play a bigger role. There's a lot of opportunity there for Britain in terms of business, professional, financial services, as well as other areas such as AI. China and America lead on AI, but if you go down the list, Britain leads the next group, albeit a long way behind. So I think this is very important as long as the detail follows up on the basis of the relationship that's been agreed in Beijing this time.
It's a statement of the blindingly obvious, I guess, to say it, but clearly global geopolitics are shifting. I mean, how do you see China-UK economic ties fitting into that shifting landscape?
OK, well, the reality of the situation is that Britain will naturally align with the US when it comes to areas such as defence, security and intelligence. But there is clearly a red line, and the other side of that in terms of business, trade, professional services, economic development. There's lots of scope for Britain to deepen its relationship with China and indeed other countries around the world. And in terms of the trading relationship, it's not just China. Both countries can cooperate together in terms of other markets as well. Britain has a relationship with China that Britain says is based on the 3 C's: compete, challenge and cooperate. Business here in the UK would like another C added to that: consistency. Therefore, it's important that this political relationship we've seen over the last year gathers further ground. And I think the City of London, too, will see lots of inward investment from Chinese banks. I'm with the Bank of China here in London. So there's a lot that China can do in the UK, particularly in the City of London. There's a lot that the UK can do in China, particularly in services, and indeed help China move up the value curve in services itself.
And for businesses and investors watching the choreography of this visit, I mean, what are the key signals that we should take away?
Well, the most important one is the actual fact that it has taken place, and that it is on the back of a number of bilateral meetings over the last year in terms of trade and economics and finance. This is the first meeting visit by a UK Prime Minister to China for 8 years. Now, when I was in China at the end of last year, one of the news items was about frosty relations between Germany and China. Since then, we've seen France and China, we've seen Canada and China have positive meetings. I think it's important for Britain to actually globally have good relations with all sorts of countries, but particularly with the world's second biggest economy. And coming back to your question, the very fact that the meeting has taken place and the very fact that positive facts have come out of it is the real message to take away.
Gerard Lyons, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed for coming on the programme again. Gerard Lyons, the Senior Independent Director at the Bank of China in the UK.